The streets of Babylon were silent that night. A hot wind swept through the city as the greatest conqueror the world had ever known took his last breath. Alexander the Great, king of Macedon, lord of Asia, was dead. He was only 32 years old. Around his bed, his generals stood frozen. None dared to speak. They had watched their king drink, suffer fever, and waste away for days. Some whispered it was poison. Others claimed it was disease. But one thing was certain. The man who had carved an empire from Greece to India now lay still. And then came the question no one had prepared for. What would they do with his body? In the ancient world, the burial of a king was more than a ceremony. It was a symbol of power. Whoever held the body of Alexander would hold the legitimacy of his empire. And so began one of history's greatest mysteries, a struggle not just for an empire, but for the corpse of the man who had built it. At first, Alexander's generals agreed on one thing. He would be buried in Igi, the ancient royal city of Macedon. There, he would rest with his ancestors. But somewhere between Babylon and Macedon, something changed. The massive funeral cart, a golden chariot carrying Alexander's sarcophagus, was intercepted. Ptolemy, one of Alexander's most trusted generals, seized the body and diverted it to Egypt, his newly claimed territory. Why? Because possession of Alexander's remains meant more than loyalty, it meant legitimacy. If Alexander's body lay in Egypt, Ptolemy could present himself not just as a general, but as the rightful heir to Alexander's divine legacy. The funeral procession never reached Macedon. Instead, it traveled south, across the desert, until it reached the great city of Memphis, where Ptolemy laid Alexander to rest. But the story didn't end there. Years later, Alexander's body was moved again, this time to Alexandria, the shining city he himself had founded. Kings, philosophers, and even Roman emperors came to gaze upon the conqueror who had died so young. And then it disappeared. The tomb that had once been the most famous in the world was suddenly gone, erased from history. No one knows when. No one knows why. Was it destroyed by earthquake? Buried by flood? Looted by enemies? Or deliberately hidden? Its location kept secret to protect it from desecration? For centuries, travelers and scholars searched Alexandria for the lost tomb. None ever found it. And so, the mystery of Alexander's final resting place became one of history's greatest unsolved riddles. But there are whispers, strange clues buried in ancient texts, that suggest the tomb might still exist, hidden somewhere, waiting to be found. And if it ever is, it might reveal secrets about Alexander's death that no one was meant to know. Centuries passed, yet the fascination with Alexander's tomb never faded. In Alexandria, people still told stories of the shining mausoleum that once stood in the heart of the city. According to ancient sources, the tomb was no simple grave, it was a marvel. Some claimed it was made of glass, so that visitors could see Alexander's embalmed body lying inside. Others described it as a golden sarcophagus that glowed in the torchlight. Roman emperors made pilgrimages to the tomb. Julius Caesar visited it. Octavian, later Augustus, is said to have looked upon Alexander's mummified face, and even plucked a flower from the tomb as a souvenir. The tomb was a political shrine, a way for Roman rulers to connect themselves to Alexander's glory. But by the time of the later Roman Empire, something had changed. Mentions of the tomb became rare. Travelers who once spoke of its splendor stopped mentioning it at all. It simply vanished from the record. And with that silence, the mystery deepened. Historians have debated for centuries what might have happened. Earthquakes repeatedly struck Alexandria in the centuries after Alexander's death. Could one have destroyed the tomb? Or was it looted during times of chaos, its treasures scattered and the sarcophagus melted for gold? Some suggest that the Christianization of the Roman Empire played a role. In the 4th century AD, pagan shrines were closed or destroyed. Could Alexander's tomb, a place of pagan veneration, have been deliberately erased from history? Yet there are clues that hint it may have survived. In the 19th and 20th centuries, archaeologists in Alexandria uncovered ancient burial chambers beneath the modern city. In 1995, a group of archaeologists even claimed to have found a site that could be Alexander's lost mausoleum, a vast underground complex with royal-style architecture. But before they could finish excavating, the site was mysteriously shut down by authorities, leaving questions unanswered. Some conspiracy theorists go even further. They argue that the tomb may have been found long ago, but its discovery was suppressed. Why? Because Alexander's body might hold secrets that could rewrite history. Ancient writers claim that Alexander's corpse was miraculously preserved, as if by divine power. Could his remains reveal what truly killed him? Was it really malaria or typhoid fever? Or was he poisoned, as many of his generals believed? Some even say Alexander may not have been dead when they sealed him in the tomb, that he suffered from a rare illness that made him appear lifeless while still alive. If scientists were to examine his remains today, they could test for these possibilities. Perhaps that is why his tomb remains hidden, because revealing it might uncover truths that some would rather keep buried. And so, the search continues. Archaeologists dig through the ruins of Alexandria, hoping that one day they will find the lost resting place of the man who conquered the world. But if they do find it, what will they really discover? Because the tomb of Alexander may hold more than just bones. It may hold the truth about one of history's greatest enigmas, how the greatest general who ever lived really met his end. Picture this. It's a humid night in modern Alexandria. The air smells of salt and dust. A team of archaeologists stands in a narrow street, surrounded by the noise of traffic above. Beneath their feet lies a network of tunnels, untouched for nearly 2,000 years. They descend into the darkness, their flashlights cutting through centuries of silence. The walls are carved limestone, damp and slick. The deeper they go, the more elaborate the passageways become. Mosaics of lions, Macedonian shields, and sunbursts still faintly visible. Then, they find it. A doorway, sealed by stone. On its surface, a faint engraving. A star, the Vergina sun, symbol of the Macedonian kings. Heartbeats quicken. Cameras roll. The archaeologists break the seal and step into a chamber, so still it feels like time itself has stopped. Inside lies a sarcophagus, massive, glowing faintly in the artificial light. Its surface is worn, but the outline of a man in a chariot is still visible. The name carved below is almost gone, but the letters that remain spell Alex. The world outside never hears about this discovery. The site is immediately taken over by authorities. Workers are sent home. Official reports claim that nothing of importance was found. But whispers spread. Some insiders say they saw a perfectly preserved body inside, the skin strangely intact, as if it had only been dead for a few years. Others claim tests were conducted, and the results were shocking, evidence that Alexander may have died not from illness, but from slow-acting poison. If true, that would mean his death was no accident. Historians have long suspected foul play. Alexander's generals had much to gain from his death. His empire was vast, and with no clear successor, it was up for grabs. Some names keep appearing. Cassander, who later killed Alexander's wife and son. Antipater, the regent of Macedon, who had been summoned to Babylon shortly before Alexander fell ill. Was his death a carefully orchestrated assassination, carried out by those closest to him? And if this truth came out today, what would it mean for history? The world sees Alexander as a brilliant conqueror, a man who shaped civilizations. But to know he was betrayed, that his own men may have killed him, would change the story entirely. Perhaps that is why his tomb remains hidden, even today. Not because it cannot be found, but because revealing it could shatter the myth of the man who became a god. And so, Alexander remains where he has been for 2,000 years, lost, waiting in the darkness of history. Perhaps one day, someone will find him. And when they do, the world will finally have to face the truth about how the greatest conqueror of the ancient world really died.